Part 5, When We Remember Ourselves. The countdown hit 0, and Earth didn't shut it down. From Vigilant's vantage, the unregistered ring flared like a peeled nerve. The siphon it opened into the distant K-dwarf surged from river to flood, jets of plasma bending wildly, as if space itself were trying to stitch shut what humanity had torn open. Admiral Reyes muttered, "Damn." Kaito's voice cracked over the comm, distortion-ridden. "The Council's lost control. Military override. They're calling it a proof of capability." A distant voice on Earth had said, "Better to be feared than forgotten." Now everyone remembered them. The Accord's response was immediate. Delta-class ships shifted position with terrifying elegance, forming a hardened barrier between the unauthorized ring and the lattice. The glow from the ring wasn't steady. It was pulsing, stuttering, like it was starving for containment it didn't have. Inside the hub, Archivist Rao issued a single command. Engage shield harmonics. Around the lattice star, dormant nodes flared to life. Circular structures spun on invisible axes, throwing up interference waves that shimmered across local space. It was beautiful. It was lethal. And it was barely holding. "If we cut the ring now," Marek said grimly, "we vaporize a chunk of your moon." "And if we don't?" Reyes asked. Rao answered. "Then you burn the ledger. You reset the trust of 1,000 civilizations to 0, and we all go hungry." The broadcast. Amara stood again in the bridge viewport, audio feed open to every open frequency, every tower on Earth, every relay across the Moon and Mars. She didn't write a speech. She didn't need to. "This is Dr. Amara Singh, again. I've spoken a lot in the last few days. First to people who didn't believe me, then to people who didn't want to, then to people who believed too much, too fast." The glow of the new siphon flickered through the hull. "We found out the sun was being drained, and we panicked. But what we didn't do was ask why, or who, or even when. Because the answer, as it turns out, was us. We drained it long ago, and we forgot." She let that sit. Let it sting. "There is a network out here. A ledger, a shared promise not to die in the dark. Our ancestors signed it and our planet benefited from it twice. Now the payment has come due and we lit a match instead of opening a door." She reached to steady herself on the console. "You don't have to trust me. Just listen to the numbers. The laws of the universe don't care who shouts loudest. But we do have a choice. Shut the siphon down, talk, or you'll force hands that don't want to be clenched. And this time, if we forget again, there won't be a broadcast. Shut down." There was no answer for 17 seconds. Then the unregistered ring hiccuped and collapsed. A wash of expanding light flared, harmlessly diffused by the Accord's containment grid. The lattice held, the K-dwarf stabilized, and all across the Accord, ships held position and waited. A whisper came in from Kaito. It was civilians, university kids. They staged a mass override from inside the network, forced the shutdown. Most of them were arrested before they finished the command string, but one node in Kenya stayed open long enough to punch it through. Rao raised a brow. "Kenya?" Reyes gave a tired smile. "Always had good engineers." The reckoning. The Accord didn't retaliate. They investigated. An inquiry was formed, headed by systems older than any living nation. The shutdown was recorded. The node was examined. Earth's status was updated from rogue to reinstated, probationary. The ring at L2 was dismantled, but the ring on the sun stayed. Because Sul was still part of the ledger. And now, Earth had returned to the table. Amara was offered a seat on the Accord's Scientific Council. She turned it down. "I don't want to leave," she said. "Not until I help them remember. All of them." So instead, she returned to Earth, to lectures and long-form interviews, to a little house outside Nairobi, to Shorty, who had apparently forgiven her, to building a new kind of curriculum that started with the stars and worked backward toward ethics. The future. 10 years later, a new ship launched from Earth. It wasn't a warship, it wasn't even an explorer, it was a diplomatic envoy, part museum, part classroom, part archive. Its name was Memory. On board were students from 27 countries, 2 cats, and a copy of the mass ledger printed in watermarked thread and stored in a transparent polymer cube. Archivist Rao met them at the hub. She led them through the same airlock where Amara had once walked, though now it had a nameplate that read, Window 17, Treaty Terminal, Sol Sector. The children stared at the lattice with wide eyes. One asked why it glowed. Rao smiled. Because it remembers. Another child asked if the sun would ever stop shining. Rao knelt beside them. Only if we stop sharing, she said. Only if we forget. The ship stayed for 3 days, then left orbit with a gift from the Accord, a data crystal containing 80,000 years of recorded light. The children called it a sun in a box. Back on Earth, Amara watched the departure feed on a cracked tablet. She smiled and whispered something only Shorty heard. "I think we paid the bill." Thank you for listening to Mass Deficit by B.R. Parker. Tune in Friday at 7 p.m. Central for a new series premiere.